Hello, my YouTube friends. Happy Saturday. I hope everybody is doing well. Today, I'm going to unveil my $500 million portfolio. Yep, you heard me right. $500 million. So, tonight is the $1.8 billion lottery, and I figure I'm going to win it and be the only winner. And when I thought it through, I think if you take one lump sum, you'll probably get enough that in the end, you should be able to have about 500 million after taking care of friends and family and whatever else you need to. So I thought long and hard about it because really I do plan to win and I want to be prepared for when that money comes in and know what I'd want to be invested in. Now, I figured I would take about 250 million around there and put that into dividend stocks. Now, I don't know if I'd just be so lazy and buy SCHD or if I'd pick what I want on my own and maybe buy, I don't know, 100 or 200 different tickers and put about a million or so in each to get somewhere around 5% return so that I would have a little over 12 million a year because I figure a million a month is probably enough to live on that we'd be okay and we wouldn't have to struggle too bad. So I figure that's a good start. I would then take about 100 million and see if I could outperform the S&P. And those are the stocks I'm going to go over in today's video. As much as I'm hopefully not joking, I figured I'd discuss the ones that I would have in an account to try to outperform the S&P, as well as that additional funds that I would put in just an account so my wife could have fun, we could travel and whatever else. So let's hope I win that lotto, and then I can do a follow, well, Powerball, I guess it is. I'm used to calling it lotto. But I can do follow-up videos on the investments and how they're doing. It would put it into a really good position where the videos would do really well in terms of, being able to show the portfolio and everything else. The funny thing is, I think I would still do videos and I wouldn't want to change too many things. Now, I'm not stupid. Like, I do know some things would change, but in a long discussion with one of my friends, I said the reality is, as much as like it sounds like fun winning it, what I'd worry about is it's more likely to ruin your life than make it better in a lot of ways. Because I'm really fortunate. I have a family I love and I like to spend time with. I don't have to work too hard, as most of you see. Like, I work from home at this point most days. I'll go in the office and check in on things, but I'm really not bogged down too difficultly. And part of that is because of my investment journey over the past 40 years of trying to save and put away. So, at least at this stage, I'm beginning to feel more comfortable that we'll be fine pretty much no matter what. Now, that being said, I think it could end up where people handle things differently. And I don't know how my wife would react to that kind of money versus how I would react. And while I don't really want things to change, that doesn't mean that she would be on the same boat. I think she would. I mean, I know she's really content with where we are. But then the family who finds out and your friends who find out, do they have certain expectations? You're going to find out who your friends are really quickly. I mean, you're going to find out really quickly. And life is no fun without your friends. So of course I would want to have them around and do things with them. And then the other thing, as dumb as this sounds, my son has all sorts of dreams and aspirations. He wants to be a lawyer. He works really hard at school. He swims. He does all of these things. Would having all that money ruin all of that? Like, do you no longer care about being a lawyer or pushing to grow and do well and be a part of society simply because there's just too much money and there's no point? Like, not trying to be sarcastic, but going out and working and becoming a lawyer and everything else and spending all that time working when your family just has so much money that you really don't have to, do you still have that drive? Because I think that drive is part of what makes us push to do better and live longer and have goals and everything else. So I would hate to actually ruin his goals and aspirations simply by winning a lottery. So, as much as I'm joking, there's a small amount of fear of if somebody won who had a good life, that it's more likely to hurt their life than help their life. Anyway, let's talk about those stocks that I would want to try to beat the S&P, and we'll get into that, and I'll explain why I like these companies. Before I get into the 10 picks which I don't even know if I already mentioned, it would essentially be about 10 picks that I would put around 10 million each or some variation of to try to beat the S&P. But before I even get on those, Saturday is one of my favorite days when I do options because it's when a lot of the options expire. And I love getting those little pop ups that let me know which one's expired. And that's whether I've gotten taken on a stock or I've gotten assigned new ones, and start to think about the next week and how we can adjust accordingly for anyway. It's just my silly stuff. I really enjoy investing. And part of why I'm doing the video is if I won the lottery is I still really enjoy it. And it doesn't mean I'd go do something else. I mean, I joked with my wife about it, and she has an aspiration to go and open up a business and start running it. I got to tell you, that is the last thing I would want to do. I've had my own businesses. If I won a lot of money, the last thing I would want to do is be tied down to a new business. If I could continue to invest and see if I can do better than others, that's so cool to me, and I enjoy doing that. It becomes, you're not, nobody really cheats or takes it like you just are competing against the numbers, and your guess is as good as anyone else, and I enjoy that. So that being said, I know I've mentioned it in other videos. I would start with the magnificent, what I call six. And with Elon Musk's new incentive program, I may even consider the Magnificent Seven. I really believe you don't have to search too hard to find the greatest companies. I see a lot of guys on YouTube digging really deep, trying to find these diamonds in the rough. Some of them are great stories, some of them make a lot of sense, but I think you're taking a bigger gamble than just buying what already works. Do you think Amazon is going to do better year over year for the next 5 or 10 years? I mean, you don't have to agree, but for me, it seems like right in front of your face. Same with Google, same with Meta, and I'll talk a little about the details of why I like all of them. But as far as I'm concerned, the six and the Magnificent Seven and not Tesla are on that path. I think part of Elon Musk's new incentive program isn't such a bad idea. And as much as somebody could turn their nose up and think, well, why does he even need that much incentive? The guy's so rich already. Well, I don't know. And maybe he does. And maybe it lights a fire under his butt to get moving and do some of this stuff. I don't know if the people are just calling his BS and saying, hey, you've promised this and that, and you keep pushing it to later dates. How about or get off the pot? Like, buddy, can you do the robo taxis? Can you do the robots? Can you get as many cars as you've said you're going to get out there? Like, how about we give you an incentive, and if you get it done, you focus on Tesla instead of politics and X and everything else? We'll get you paid. You don't have to worry about anything else. Because last time they did it, he blew through the numbers and he did a really good job. Because quite honestly, I think he's full of it. Like, come on, robots, robo taxis. You've been talking about this stuff for years, and none of it's coming to fruition. I will admit the autonomous driving, and don't get me wrong, I love the cars. We have two drivers in the house. We have two Teslas. When my son gets to age, I assume we're going to have a third. I really think they make a great car. But making a great car and being able to expand at the rate you're implying you're going to be able to expand are two totally different things. So I don't want to confuse those. And I also will admit, which is what I started to say, the autonomous driving has really improved over the past few months. I used to hate it. Even when it was going straight, it was constantly readjusting, making tiny little, like it was very unsmooth. It's gotten extremely smooth. There are things it still struggles with, like, so for example, one time we they give these free times that they'll give it for people to be able to try it. I think they're trying to get you to sign up, but I drive around town. I don't really need autonomous driving anyway, but I do play with it when they do it. One time coming from basically the strip, but not really heading home, we were heading up a street that it wanted to, and I let it do whatever it did, but it was going to, we were going up towards the west, and then we were turning right to turn left onto a more, like a busier street. And if I'm doing it, I go to one of the other streets where it's going to have traffic lights, because I know that street is busy enough that it's very hard to make a left turn from one of the side streets. I'm sure that the Tesla and the computer factored that it was quicker to take the side streets, so it did. Well, we were stuck at that street. And as the traffic continued to go back and forth, I don't think the car has the ability to adjust and do what a human would, which is finally say, I'm going to have a lot of trouble getting across the street. Maybe I'll just turn right and do a U turn at the light, or I'll turn right and then left, or I'll make a few rights to mentally make an adjustment to recognize you're in a position that's going to be really difficult to get past. The other thing is with that street, the real way to get into the lane is they have like this middle lane where people can turn left going in either direction. It's usually pretty empty. You really have to wait for the traffic on one side of the street to die down, pull into the middle lane and pick up speed to be able to merge into traffic into the lane you're going to. And I don't know that it has the capability of doing that either. So we were kind of stuck there. I had to turn it off and readjust and do it myself because otherwise we were just going to sit there for the next 20 minutes. I think that may still be an issue, but when we used it recently, because they gave us like a 1 month trial again, it was super smooth. And we went from our house down to the strip. It went through a roundabout, which it's been a little bit struggled for a while, and sometimes we like shut off in the middle of it. No problem. It got onto the highway, no problem. It wasn't cutting in front of cars the way it used to. So there's been some real strides and some real improvement on it where it runs a lot smoother than it used to. Either way, I don't know that he's really going to get robo taxis out there as quickly as he suggests. I don't know that he's actually going to get robots out there that people are going to get and purchase and use in situations that he envisions. I have no idea that he'll be able to get the amount of cars delivered that he keeps promising. So those are the things that are in this incentive plan that he would have to hit those targets as well as market cap targets, and their goal is an 8x essentially over the next 10 years. Well, if he 8 timed my money over the next 10 years, I suppose I don't really care how big of an incentive he gets. Like, I'd be thrilled that somebody was able to do that on an investment. So I'd be tempted to add Tesla into the mix, but I don't know that I really believe in them, and I also think that they're a little overvalued or a lot overvalued for what it is today. Car companies don't get 80 multiples for their price to earnings ratio. They don't grow that fast. They might in the beginning, but at this point it's a mature company, and I don't think that they're going to continue to grow that like that. Now, they might have a blowout quarter because of the $7,500 credit that's going to be taken away that push people to buy new cars, including us. Um, but I don't know that that is something that you can rely on long term because even if it gets reinstated, which I half think it will when the sales slow down, I figure in 6 months when sales are pretty bad for EVs, they'll probably reinstate that incentive. But I guess we'll see. I still wasn't willing to take the risk because it's a huge savings. I mean, when you're looking at a car that the sticker price is $40,000 and they're giving you $7,500 tax savings to buy it, percentage wise, that's just, I mean, you're getting almost 20% off on the car. So it's really an amazing opportunity. And if it doesn't come back, I wasn't willing to take that risk because my wife's car was like a 2013 and it was just, it was time. Um, Either way, I don't know that they're going to be able to grow at the pace that the price earnings multiples is implying. And I don't know how realistic the robo taxis and the robots really are. I do get that they have a subscription model. I think the other car companies are going to shift some of the stuff to that, but I guess we'll see how it ends up going as we move along. Now, number two, I'm going to talk about Amazon because I just think they are a beast, and it's one of my favorite companies. My three favorite was the one I did in the video the other day, which is Amazon, Google, and Meta. Like, those are my three top. But Amazon, I just love because once you start using it, like, I barely even go to the store anymore. There's nothing I need right this second that I need to run out and go grab it that Amazon can't deliver to my doorstep tomorrow and sometimes today. So it's super cool. You then add to it the Amazon Web Services, the Prime Video, and all their ancillary businesses that really make them more of like this amalgam of a whole bunch of things instead of just the one company that we know them as. And their earnings continue to grow. They have an ability to cut down some of their expenses. And they're one of the few in the AI world there where things really make sense and they're using it and they have the budget to spend on it to try to get ahead of everybody else. I would say similar for Google and this whole thing that search is going to become obsolete. Like maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. In the meantime, search continues to grow at over 10% year over year pretty consistently for a while now, While everybody's saying that ChatGPT is going to take it over and put them out of business, that hasn't been the case. And their argument of there's room in there for all of us has tended to be what's happening. Like on top of it, their own AI is beginning to do really well, and they're growing their businesses on all fronts. You then get things like Waymo as like what I think of as a free call. Nobody values that in the pricing of Google, and there are other companies like that as well. So if they end up being a thing and Waymo ends up being a real competitor versus robo taxis or Zooks, you're getting that almost for free, and it's growing at a good pace at this point. So I think Waymo could really be a surprise to their bottom line in time. And they're also competing on the web services type of things, and they have all these other ancillary businesses as well. Like I think Google is kind of like the blue chip of the tech stocks. I think they were so undervalued for so long. At 235, I think they're getting to a price where I would call it fair value. That doesn't mean it can't go higher. I really think they will as earnings continue and they continue to grow, especially since they were so out of favor that generally things go from being way out of favor to being overhyped. I think it's a little overbought when I look at the chart at the moment, but I think Google is just such a great company that if you're going to own it for 5 or 10 years, you're likely to outperform as well. And then Meta. I think that everybody loves to hate Zuckerberg. Like, I just feel that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but they seem really happy when the stock was doing poorly a couple years ago because they were overspending for the metaverse and AI and all the other things. Well, it's funny how things have turned since they seem to be the only company that's using it in a way that's profitable for the company. They have over 3 billion with a B daily users. That is just incredible. And it continues to grow. And it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's I think they're WeChat. I always mix up whether they're maybe they're WhatsApp. Sorry, they're WhatsApp. WeChat is the Chinese one. But I think if they can figure a way to monetize WhatsApp and become half of what it's used in China, do you know in China, at least when, so those of you who don't know, we spent 6 weeks there this summer. When we were in the town that my wife is from and staying at my father in law's house, when I left the house, the only thing I would bring with me was my phone. Well, I mean, I'd bring me and my clothes and whatever else, but I didn't bring my wallet. It was locked up in his house. Why? Because nobody uses it. There's no such thing as cash. There's no such thing as credit cards. You just take your phone and it's not like some things here where you just tap it, but they have like a QR code and a scan thing, and it just kind of reads each other's information to be able to pay for things. And that's everywhere. They're pretty much a cashless society at this point. Even if you go to street markets and whatever else, the vendors, they all take WeChat. It's just the way it is. The subways, the trains, and anywhere we went, there was nothing that needed cash or credit card. It was really amazing. And I think that was the concept behind WhatsApp. In America, we just haven't really turned that direction. I think that's also Apple Pay. I think they see what's going on in some of these other countries where they're becoming cashless, not in a way that they use credit cards, but in a way that people leave their house and the only thing they have with them is their phone. It's pretty neat, and I imagine in time, for convenience reasons, we probably get there. Either way, I love Meta. I love they really have the social network beat. They've crushed everybody else, and owning like McDonald's in the food industry, I think owning Meta is like the social aspect. And then you have Microsoft. Well, for the most part, if you have a computer, you're pretty much dealing with Microsoft. I know you could have an Apple computer instead of a PC, but then you're still probably dealing with people who use Microsoft. And all of their documents and their Word apps and everything else are getting integrated into school. My son knows how to use it. Same with Google. Google Docs seems to be something where they're submitting their assignments and they communicate with their teachers and work in groups and things like that. Stuff that I never understood or never was able to do. And Microsoft, with the subscription model of what is it, like $20 a month or something, pretty much every business is set up with their Microsoft so that their computer systems work and they're able to do all of their graphs and charts and everything else. I also think that Microsoft, if they focused on it a little bit, is very close to being able to offer all the things that Salesforce does, ticker symbol CRM, which is a little bit of what's hurting the stock price. I think if they incorporated customer management for people instead of just the calendar and everything else, where it would allow to send out automatic emails, give you reminders on people to call, and some of the things that Salesforce is able to do. Microsoft may be able to add that onto their platform without charging anymore, and really drive more business, and not just necessarily drive more business, but be able to, you know, entrench their customers into their ecosystem even more, where it's something that they have to rely on more. Microsoft is one of the best, and the fact that they have the monthly subscription makes it really easy to know what their earnings are going to be. If they raised it $2 a month, you're talking about 10% increase, and I don't think anybody would bat their eyes at a $2 increase over a year. And they tend not to do that. They tend to be able to leave their pricing where their pricing is and have add-ons that other people are buying. I also think they could do taxes and all sorts of things in that same ecosystem to make it more encompassing, and grow their whatever the word I'm looking for and having a brain fart is. So so what have we gone over? We've talked about Amazon, we've talked about Google, we've talked about Meta, and we've talked about Microsoft. Well, Apple. Just look around, walk around. How many people have an iPhone? And even though they haven't been real innovative recently, I think they have the announcement on the new one on September 9th, from what I understand. I am hoping that they're able to incorporate a fold or a flip or something coming down the road. Because quite honestly, this is the first time I tried to switch to a Samsung. I bought the fold because I love the phone. The phone was great. The transformation was beyond difficult. So I returned the phone like less than 24 hours and went back to my iPhone. Not because I didn't want the fold phone, but because changing from being an iPhone to being a Samsung is such a pain in the ass. It wasn't worth the headache. All the finding my passwords, like Apple makes it so easy where everything is just Face ID and on my phone and through their ecosystem. If you get a new Apple phone, it's just on the new one by being in their cloud and just transforming. And then every single app having to check what email I had it associated with, trying to remember the password. And then when I didn't, have to do the forget password, have them send me an email, have them send me a text, update it, change it. Then I have to change it on the computer. It started out okay with the first one or two because it's really not that big a deal. But when you realize you have 20 different apps that you never have to log into, that you don't really think about when you try to change from an Apple to a Samsung, and I imagine vice versa, it's really more difficult than you think. And as much as I'd like to punch them all in the face because I think that's ridiculous, it is what it is, which means the people who are already using Apple phones are going to have a really tough time changing that in the future. It means they're kind of stuck with Apple products. Probably pretty similar for the ones who have Samsung, probably pretty similar for the ones who have Android. It's probably difficult to change all your stuff. Like, I wish there were companies that just sold phones and you could sign up with whatever service that you have your phone with. Because, like I said, I really like that fold phone. For me, who's getting old and my eyesight sucks, to be able to open it up and have that big screen, and then I'm able to like have my account on one side, watch CNBC on the other, and get work done all at the same time because you're able to have different apps open at the same time. That was super cool. And when it's closed up, it is a phone, and the 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 screen is really good. The colors, the vibrant and the dark versus the light is a very good colors. The funny thing is I don't know how many of you notice this. Like, so if you have if you have an Apple phone, you use Face ID, you can wake up in the middle of the night with the lights off and it works just fine. That wasn't the case with the Samsung. It can't see your face the same way. If it's dark and you're trying to use the Face ID, it can't recognize it, and you either have to use your passcode or thumbprint or something else. Not a major deal. Obviously, you can set up the thumbprint, but it was just interesting to me how good Apple is at all that stuff and that they're still struggling with it. Either way, Apple's a great company. You then have the iTunes and the Apple TV, which I wish they would do a better job of competing with Netflix, but they just don't. And you add all of it together, and I'm hoping that they're coming out with something of some sort of fold phone in the next year or so. Otherwise, I guess I'm going to have to upgrade because it's getting to the point that my battery dies too quickly or replace the battery or something else. But Apple would be on that list. And then Nvidia. Nvidia, I think, just has to be. And I don't own any Nvidia. I kicked myself. I bought it when it was first starting to take off, and I did just fine. But I thought it started getting too expensive and scared myself out, or you wanted to take the profits, or whatever you want to call it, and sold out of it. And that was probably at, I don't know, 600 or 700. I think it might have even been $800 a share before the split, and it's more than doubled since then. So I kind of kicked myself that I didn't just set it and forget it, because the reality is it was a company that I believed in, that I felt like I should have just put in my set it and forget it account and just ignored. That's the problem when I keep it in my own hands, which is why I have those separate accounts. So I would start with those six. I would probably add both CrowdStrike and Palo Alto Networks, because I think cybersecurity is not going away and something we're going to need. And as far as I understand, those are the two top in the field. And I don't know enough about it. I probably should research about it better. But I again feel like the stuff that's right in your face is the stuff you want to be invested in. And to me, Palo Alto Networks and CrowdStrikes are the ones that I've heard about, that I understand that they're the best, and I would want to be invested in that space. So if I'm trying to beat the markets and I'm trying to beat the S&P, I guess I got the Magnificent Seven, CrowdStrike, Palo Alto Networks, and my last one is either Shopify or Spotify, primarily because they sound alike. So I make, no, I'm joking. Shopify is one I picked about years ago, just because I was getting into marketplaces and paying attention, and they seem to be really growing and doing really well. I like their platform. I think it's a great avenue to sell things on. I think that their ability to expand and cover somebody's entire business is really impressive. And I got in, I think, when it was $33 a share, and I've watched it grow. And it's not anything that's in the media a ton. They do talk about it a little bit, but I think they have tons of room ahead of them, and they're going to continue to be dominant in that space. And then Spotify, I only pick because that's my son's pick. Like, he's picked it, he's done exceptionally well, and the reason he picks it is because him and his friends are all on it. I am actually tempted, as a side note, to buy a tiny bit. Remember, position sizing is what we were talking about, of Roblox as well, for the same reason. He and his friends all play on there. Um, he said most of the kids in high school, which surprised me because I thought it was only for kids who are younger, are playing on it pretty consistently. So I figure whatever is going on with Roblox probably has room to continue to grow. I feel like if you have the younger generation on your platform, you have a good timeline ahead of you for that to continue. That's how I feel about Spotify. And as much as they have competitors of places that are doing podcasts and everything else, they still seem to be the go to place. And he's convinced me to use it a little bit, that I listen to the music on there and everything else. It's amazing how things have changed over the years. I don't, you guys tell me, like, I don't have cable TV or anything else. We watch YouTube, Netflix. We have a few things on. We don't get Apple TV, but I have a bunch of movies that I bought over the years on Apple TV. And then if you buy a TV, generally they have a whole bunch of channels themselves without having cable. So we pulled the plug a long time ago. I do have internet through Cox, which also sells the cable stuff, but I'm not about to pay for the TV channels. And the same has happened, obviously, like nobody has AM and FM music anymore. So I tend to use Spotify. I do listen to the radio from time to time in the car, but I also sometimes just connect the phone and play my Spotify through it. I don't even use Live Nation or whatever the other one is anymore. And I have a feeling he and his friends are really similar. That's where he listens to his music. He's using it all the time. So I guess Spotify has a lot of room as well. So The things I would invest my $100 million portfolio in. I hope none of you plan on winning the Powerball tonight because that's going to hurt my chances. Like if you guys want to win, I would rather I win. As much as I root for the best for all of you, I'm hoping that I have the misfortune of having to deal with all the headaches that I worry about with the Powerball and have to decide like all the things that I would decide. I would also give a lot to charity, quite honestly. But all of it, like anything that you try to do is good. I worry about the negative repercussions with it. Like the minute you start giving, you're going to have more people at the door banging, asking. Anyway, all of these terrible problems from winning Powerball. I hope that I have to deal with them. I hope it works out well. If you could do me a favor, if you haven't already, and hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, make some comments in the comment section. You have no idea how much that helps the algorithm and helps the channel grow. Not that it's necessarily my goal to really make the channel grow. I really do owe you guys a thank you, mainly because uh, it's not about the growth. It's more that when I make my videos, especially on the trading account, it has helped me stay patient and stick with my trades. At this point, I don't really care if my account grows or how things do or how many people are watching because I don't get a ton of views on the videos. I have a good amount of subscribers, but I tend not to get a whole lot of views per video, which is more important in a lot of ways and what I would rather see. But what happens is by me making the videos and talking about the trading account and the goals and what I'm hoping to do with the trades makes me be more accountable for it. And I'm not like to pat myself on the back or however, or to thank you guys. For example, the trade with hymns. I know myself well enough. I don't think if I wasn't doing the videos that I'd still be in the position. I don't know that I would have been patient enough to just leave it alone, let it be, wait for the puts and the calls to expire, and just see where it plays out and continue from there. And deep down, I do believe in it and I think it's a good trade. So I just know myself that I'm emotional and reactionary, even though that doesn't seem my personality. I know that. So by doing the videos, it's caused me to be able to stick with the trade. And I owe you guys for that. I want to thank you. Same with SoFi that I haven't even really watched too much. I'm just waiting for September to keep rolling around so that each week I have different puts or calls that are expiring to see if there's more that I want to sell or have I gotten assigned or have I gotten shares taken away instead of paying attention to the stock price and maybe doing something that really wasn't the plan originally. So, thank you guys. I appreciate that I have this platform to help me stay more true to my trade. Same with United Health. I've been very good about buying some shares, not overbuying it, and just letting it be. On the down days, it doesn't bother me because I don't have a gazillion shares and sit there going, oh my God, I'm losing tons of money. I hope that I kick myself as it goes higher and higher. And I realize that that's the best position to have. To put on too small a position, it never get to the bottom where you thought it might get to, where you put on a full position and then kick yourself that you don't have enough shares as it goes higher. I think that's the best position in pretty much every stock. Otherwise, I think you may trade it poorly. If you have too few and it continues to go higher, well, you're not going to be worried about picking a top and trying to get out if nothing has changed in the company. Because even with those 10 stocks or 11 that I just discussed, the reality is those are stocks that I would plan to hold over 5, maybe even 10 years in hopes of continually beating the S&P 500 over that time frame. Now with the other account that's to get the revenue so that I can have that little bit of, like a million a month just to be able to, get by. It would be a struggle, but I think we can manage. Those, like, you just want that income coming in, and I expect it to underperform the market, which is why I always say none of this is financial advice. You need to do your own research when making financial decisions. I am not a financial advisor, and I share this stuff just for entertainment purposes only. And by all means, you shouldn't be listening to me. I am probably the biggest idiot on YouTube, But there are a lot of other idiots on YouTube as well, and you really shouldn't be listening to any of us when making financial decisions. Aha! I almost forgot to put that little disclaimer in. Anyway, again, have a great weekend. If I don't talk to you tomorrow, have a great week next week. Enjoy some time with your family. One of the guys I really like, he has a baby on the way. And when I tell you the greatest thing in the world is being a dad, and I assume being a mom if you're a mom, it really is. And none of this really matters. What matters is family and friends and the other stuff. Anyway, subscribe, give that thumbs up. Have a good day.